Hello. We often have to solve simple problems and simple equations where the x is a single unknown x and it appears once in our equation. So we look at this one here on the left hand side, we've got the x there. On the right hand equation, we've got the x there. So we need a simple method for doing this. I call this one reading and reversing, and it's used to change the subject of equations. Here we go then. So let's have a look at our equation here. X plus 1 equals 3. So what does that say in words? It says x, add 1 to it, is 3. So if we want to find out what x is, we can just reverse this process. Let's read it the other way round. So reading from the right to left, it says 3 subtract 1 is x. So 3 take away 1 is 2, and that's going to be x. So that's pretty straightforward as a process. And when we write it in algebraic form, and here at the bottom, we said it was reading out from our x. It says x add 3. So to reverse that, we're going, so add 1. To reverse it, we're going to subtract 1. And if we subtract 1 from the left, we have to subtract 1 from the right. So on the left-hand side, we're just left with x. And on the right-hand side, we're left with 2. So x equals 2. Let's take a couple more difficult ones here. And we'll start by reading this equation from the x. It says x, multiply it by 2, add 3, and that's going to be 9. Therefore, we could think of it as 9, take away 3, divide by 2 is going to give us x. How do we write that in algebra? So reading away again from the x multiplied by 2, add 3. So the last thing I said was add 3. I'm going to do the reverse of that. So I'm going to subtract 3. And if I subtract it one side, I have to subtract it from the other side to keep the balance. So on the left-hand side, I'm just left with my 2x. Then I've got my equals again, because this is an equation. And on my right-hand side, I've got 9 minus 3, which is 6. There we are. So let's read my new simpler equation here. It says x multiplied by 2 equals 6. So what's the opposite of multiplying by 2? Is dividing by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. So on the left hand side, I'm just going to get left with x. Got my equals in the middle because it's an equation. And on the right hand side, I've got my 6 divided by 2. There's our 3. So therefore x equals 3. On a slightly tidier form, it is on the screen. You can stop the video and just write that down. Okay, on to the final example. This is one with division in. People get very confused, and we've just got to keep it simple. This equation says x, add 4 to it, and then divide the whole lot by 2. And that would give us 3. So if I read that going the other way, 3 times 2 take away 4 is going to be x. How do I write that algebraically? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is the opposite of divide by 2, because that was the last thing I said I'd do to the x. So on the left hand side now, I've just got my x plus 4. I've got my equals as ever, because this is an equation. And on my right hand side, I've got 3 times 2 is 6. So there's a simpler equation, means the same thing. Now it says x add 4 here. So I need to do the reverse of that, which is to take away 4. And if I'm taking away 4 from one side, I'm taking away 4 from the other. And if I'm left on the left-hand side with just my x, which is what I wanted, and on the right, I've got 6 minus 4 equals 2. So again, slightly better laid out here for you to copy down into your books or for your notes before we move on. Okay, so in summary, for where we can see there's a single x in our equation, we can read what is being done to our x. On the left hand side, it's x multiplied by 2, add 3, and do the opposite, do the reverse. Yeah, so read it and reverse it. I hope that's of use.